liquidity in the system to cover, because it's a money problem at the end of the day. You pay the suppliers, they supply the food, because every supplier wants money. So let's just take a quick listen to what the Deputy PRO said, and we'll come back again to this discussion.
We do anticipate that some food items probably may be used up and will require a beef up of their items from the end of buffer stock. So exactly that is what pertains on the ground. That is why the ministry, it was important that the ministry get these items for the schools to. So there wouldn't be any closure of schools as a result of non-food item out of the 18 that are used in our schools. So there wouldn't be any closure of schools, especially when these huge consignments are straight away moving into various schools. So parents should remain calm, the public should remain calm. We are dealing with the situation, and the evidence is what your reporter just said. Schools do have their specific challenge. Probably some may have enough rice, others may not have, others may have sugar, others may not have. So it depends on the item which you need at your end. So that is what we look out for and bring it out. So every school has got a supplier, and that is what the consignment means.
Well, you heard that from the PRO. He was of the firm opinion that no schools will be closed down as a result of food shortage. Well, at present, we do not have any reports that indicate that any school has closed down due to food shortage. But for how long? For how long will schools have to run on this problem, which comes up every single year? Let me go to the line. We have Wanda on the phone. And we have Felicity on Zoom. Wanda is a multimedia journalist at Ghana Web. Hello, Wanda, good evening. Wanda, are you able to hear me?
Hello, good evening.
Yes. Wanda, have you been following this particular incident of food shortages in secondary schools?
Indeed, I have, and from the various angles to the issue, it appears it's quite dire. But like you rightly said, the Education Ministry has said that some of the schools have begun getting some of the school items. So that's some relief to some extent.
Right. They have started receiving the food items, but of course, they have not all received the food items. Felicity is also a broadcast journalist with Class FM 91.3, and she is joining us on Zoom. Hello, Felicity.
Hello.
Yes, Felicity. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Now, following this particular issue of food shortages in secondary schools, we know that even the schools that have food, the quality of the food is sometimes so bad that you wonder about the nutritional needs of these students. Are the nutritional needs being met? But should we be focusing on the students just having the food, or should we be looking at the quality of the food?
Oh, definitely. I don't think that, we have to have an either or situation where we're saying, well, as long as they have food, it's fine. And then we shouldn't care about the nutritional value of the food, because the reality is that you need, especially for growing children, when they're from the ages of 15, 16, 14, from that age, they're teenagers, they're growing up, they have a lot of needs, they're adolescents, and they even eat more. Especially if you have teenagers at home, you would notice that they eat quite a lot. So the very idea, as long as you're giving them food, it has to be nutritious food, because you need them to be able to concentrate in school. You need them to be alert. If the food, we cannot have conversations about food, especially when it comes to kids, and not talk about nutrition. Because if you miss out on that conversation, we could end up with kids who have so many, health conditions which come up later on simply because they were not fed properly when they were younger. So I don't think that these are things that you should have. These are conversations you should have separately at all. They has to be nutritious food, and the fact that the food they're paying them 97 pesos per child. I don't think that's going to be adequate. There's no way that anyone can provide food that's nutritious at 97 pesos per child in today's Ghana.
Right. Thank you, Felicity. Let me just quickly engage Julius on the same subject. Julius Sachi is a journalist at The Finder. Julius, hello, can you hear me, Julius? All right, Julius, I think I'm having some issues with your line, but let me come back to Felicity on the same subject. Felicity, there have been some suggestions from institutions like the Africa Education Watch about redefining the policy and how it's implemented and allowing parents to contribute to feeding their children. Is this a possibility, or does this just shift the burden from government to the parents?
Anything wrong with parents feeding their children? Because isn't that the case anyway? When children are going into the schools, the parents not give them a chop box with all types of condiments in there. I don't think there's anything wrong. And especially for middle class parents, I am usually quite surprised that they're taking such a laid back approach. It's like, okay, we've heard free SHS, so then we're just going to sit back, we're going to relax, and we're not going to. I'm not saying that government doesn't have a role. Government definitely does have a role, but I do think that a lot of middle class parents, especially, can afford to subsidize their children's food and education, and they should do that. Why, if your child's at home and you wouldn't be giving them food worth 97 pesos a day, why would you think that's okay when they're at school? Simply because they're not in your presence. So there definitely is a role but the government has to be honest, right? So the reality is that the government has, painted this picture of, oh yeah, we can do it all, free SHS, Johnny, you're free, where you're free, everything is free. Right? Instead of just coming up and saying, do you know what, we actually can't afford to do everything for free. We can't maybe afford boarding school education. We can't afford to feed them adequately. So can parents chip in? But there has to be that honesty from the government. They have to acknowledge where the lapses are and the fact that the things they can't afford. They can't be pretending that everything is fine. And of course, parents are going to naturally believe the propaganda and think, okay, if government is saying it's fine, because what? They said they're going to release funds on Tuesday. As at yesterday, the Eastern region, the CHAS, they released a statement saying that if they still haven't received their food, they haven't received their supplies, and if they don't receive it by today, they're going to ask that all the schools in the Eastern region be shut down. So there's a lot of untruths being peddled by government. There's a lot of propaganda. So for parents, sometimes I think it's also difficult for them to decipher what's true and what's not. Because if you know that if you have a better picture of exactly what's going on, I think that you're better placed to respond as a parent when you know exactly what's going on. But even head teachers, when they speak up against certain things, they're being transferred, they're being silenced. So it makes it very difficult for parents to know what's going on in the schools.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Felicity. Let's just move on from food shortages to the application by the special prosecutor that was dismissed by a high court. And we know that earlier in the year, the special prosecutor made an application to uphold the office's freezing of the assets of Sir John. That's Mr. Kojowusu Efriye. Now, this was because there were some, there was a will out there that was alleged to belong to Sir John, and there were so many properties in there, including areas that should not have gone to individuals. For example, the Achimota Forest lands, the Ramsar site, and so the special prosecutor moved in to freeze the assets. Now, the Act requires the OSP's is mandated under Section 38 of the Office of the Special Prosecutors Act to freeze assets if he holds the view that these assets are necessary for investigations. Now, that is Act 959. He's also required to apply to a court within 14 days for the confirmation of the freezing order. In this instance, the court failed to uphold the order. So exactly what does this mean? The special prosecutor, of course, has since responded to this action by the court. Let me go to Julius Sachi, who's a journalist with the Finder. He's on phone with us. Hello, Julius.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Now, they say journalists are the fourth estate. We're supposed to be fighting for the interest of the people. We all saw the documents purported to be Sir John's will and the contents, the very interesting contents of that will. What do you make of this ruling by the High Court?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. So, with this judgment, with this decision that is made by the court, it clearly shows that I think the special prosecutor, J. actually in his statement said that if we allow this judgment to stand, it presupposes that anyone can actually make up wealth through corruption and then happily share it with those that are his beneficiaries, just like the late Kojo Ochefe. So if he allowed, or as a nation allowed this judgment to stand, it's going to make room for more people to say that, okay, now we can do corrupt activities, find money in whichever way, whichever means, and then as time goes on, just release it to the beneficiaries of that person. So it is. I see that this is a very dangerous judgment that if we allow it to stand, it's like the special prosecutor has said, it's going to have effects on us because as a journalist, reporting on such situations, seeing that this is a stand, when there is a subsequent situation happening in this life, reporting on it and knowing having this knowledge, reporting on it will become very difficult for you to do because it assumes that they are holding corruption. This is what it means to me as a journalist. So it is not going to be, it's not a beneficial thing. So I really, I'm happy that the special prosecutor says that it's going to appeal so that this judgment does not stand. I stand by that. Right. Yes, let's go for appeal and declare this high court, a high court appeal, so that we will know if this is the mind of the state, or this is the mind of the nation. Right. Second, I also see that maybe the judge did not have a full understanding of the law that was being used. That's the Act, the Special Prosecutor's Law, Act 959. Because it is clearly in the section 38, 39, and 40, clearly as to how the freezing of property should go about. So the special prosecutor is following exactly what it's actually acting in compliance to the law. So the section 38 talks about the freezing of property, and the 39 talks about application of freezing order. So he actually followed the process to freeze the item. Now he wants to ensure that these items these assets or assets that have been frozen will not be used by the people that it has been willed to. So that at the end of judgment, we will not find this estate anywhere, or even their value would have decreased because they have been used. So this is what it means to me as a journalist, and I believe my colleagues as well.
Right. Well, that's what the special prosecutor has been saying so far. He's released a statement. We know he's going to appeal the judgment. He also says that if this ruling by the High Court is left to stand, the Republic will lose the fight against corruption in unimaginable ways. And I'm just quoting the special prosecutor's release. But Hansen Ejiman, what do you think about this particular statement? Does the court's ruling in any way affect public perception of corruption?
Well, I think that in the scheme of things, the Constitution guarantees the right of individuals, even to the point in which they are being prosecuted. And that's why at every point in time, we appreciate that people are not guilty until proven guilty. Now, the issue of corruption is such that sometimes if you don't take care, it becomes an emotional one and people attach emotions to it. But in a state like ours that is governed by laws, you need to look at everything in the context of the law and what the law says. And if you take a very clear look at what the judge said in her ruling, it's very simple. She agrees that one, you can investigate or prosecute a dead person who you view or think that has engaged in an action or has acquired an estate illegally, or that estate in itself is tainted. But the judgment goes further to clarify that when you are doing so, and you want to go through the route of the special prosecutor, particularly you want to go through the process of freezing the assets of these people, certain thresholds should be met before you can do that. And two thresholds, particularly, the judge gave, which is in the laws of Ghana. The first point is that there should be the allegation of the property being tainted. And of course, in this instance, we all saw the will. We all saw that Sir John had, in that particular will, had properties in the Achimota forest, which is a forest zone. And per understanding, no one could or can own land in that particular space. The Ramsar site as well. Later revelations by some media personnel suggested that he did not even declare his assets. So that first step of the threshold had been passed, that there's on the face value the allegations of he acquiring those assets in an illegal manner. But there's another step of that threshold of saying that the special prosecutor or anybody who is investigating these things, before you can seize the asset, you should prove that before the demise of the person in question, Mr. John, for this instance, one, that you had issued a warrant of arrest for the person, or you have arrested the person. And in the case that was deposed by the lawyer for the special prosecutor, it was very clear that that threshold had not been met. So, for me, I think that it's a matter of what is in our law book and what we need to uphold as a people. Then, of course, I don't want to make an extension beyond the law and go into what even the law will be making, how the law will be making sense in cultural wise. But the premise of the Constitution deem it right and the provisions available that before you can freeze one's assets, then you need to have arrested that person or given a warrant of arrest for the said person. But if that warrant, if that warrant has not been given or arrest has not been made, then you've not met that threshold. So I think that we should not make the issues up. But the point remains, and I think that the judge in her ruling was very clear on some of the issues to decide. And one of them was as to whether or not you can investigate someone or even investigate beneficiaries of someone who is deceased, the estate, if you think that it is tainted. And I think that the judge made it very clear that you can do so. But the only problem here is respect to the root of the special prosecutor, which is freezing these assets when those allegations of corruption had not been made at the time or prior to the death of Sir John, and he had not been arrested, or a warrant of arrest had not been given. He says he's going for an appeal, and of course, there's a right to him, and that's why the legal process allows you appeal to the very highest level, and he can explore it to whatever I mean. But I don't think that the ruling, if you read the actual ruling, the full ruling given by the court, in any way is an affront to our fight against corruption. It's only, for me, so that we need to be diligent in this fight against corruption. And the judge also was very clear in her words that this case seems like a new or an uncharted path for somebody who is dead to be somewhat be prosecuted before be through persons who are beneficiaries to his estate. And if we get a finality to this issue, it will really at least reinforce our corruption fight. So I don't think that this should in any way discourage the special prosecutor. He should move on. If he can't freeze the assets, he should quicken his investigations into the matter. And of course, the Special Prosecutors Act directs that the special prosecutor work with other investigation bodies or even with other bodies. And in this instance, I think that the NPP as a political party and the assigns of government themselves should be interested in this matter. And some administrative processes can go on to determine whether or not indeed Sir John really owned lands in the Atumota Forest and at the Ramsar side. We know that there's been a first level of investigation by the Lands Commission, and the Lands Commission is saying that it does not have any land in the name of Sir John. But for me, I don't think that that level of investigation is enough, because again, we are being told that as far back as 2008, when processes began to give the lands to the old families, they have not been given, even though they also leased out other people, they couldn't operate on these lands. So you wouldn't expect somebody to go to the Lands Commission to register a land that he or she cannot build on. So I think that we need to dig deeper with the administrative investigations. And if a special prosecutor partners with the government and the NPP government, who should be interested in this as well, because at the end of the day, Sir John is a stalwart of the NPP and will always be mentioned. And he can't be dead and such a tag will still be on him. So it's very necessary that the government and the NPP itself take it upon themselves to make sure that, i.e., either his name is cleared or the facts are clear. And I think that if a special prosecutor at one point in time is interested in that level of coordination and is able to clarify and get concrete facts beyond the leaks we saw on social media, beyond the newspaper publications, that is enough for his investigation. Go to the court. At this point in time, the only time you can freeze, and for me, from my understanding in reading the law and in reading the full ruling, is that the only time you can confiscate or freeze these assets is when a court of competent jurisdiction have given a ruling or a judgment that indeed these assets were acquired in a corruption-related manner. And I think that he should channel his energies more towards getting that finality and getting the court to rule on that. Because for me, I think the part on freezing a dead person's assets who procedural cases or prosecution have not begun, or he had not seen a warrant of arrest or have not been arrested prior to his death, I think that the law is very clear and in the ruling of the judge. It will be very interesting to find out what exactly will be his cases or his reasons for the reason.
Hansen, but you know, a lot of people have said that regardless of the fact that Sir John himself was not under investigation or he's no longer alive, and the law is clear on that, but the people who are beneficiaries of these properties are alive. Why can't the state still go after these properties?
Yeah, the state can go after these properties, and the ruling is very clear. Nobody is stopping the state from going after these properties. But the point is that the special prosecutor wants to freeze these properties even before the final judgment is given. And per the law that we've seen and per the ruling of the court, you will be able to do it and before, unless you met a certain threshold. And as people who believe in constitutionalism, under no circumstance should we compromise on the law, even if at that point in time that's what we think makes common sense. Because you see, when you begin to compromise the law on things that have emotional attachment, then you are risking the entire foundation for which our constitution is built and our nation is built on. So, if this is what the law says, and I'm not against freezing it, but I'm saying that when the law bars you and gives a threshold and you are not able to meet that, you shouldn't be fixated on it. So, for me, for the special prosecutor to be fixated on going for an appeal, and unless I see the other reasons for his appeal, I think that he should rather be fixated on getting his investigations right, getting his facts, going to court, and forcing that the judge agrees with his point. And if
Right.
the judge agrees that the assets were tainted with corruption, it goes right into confiscation and goes into state hands and serves as a deterrent to other people.
Right. Hansen Ajiman is a broadcast journalist from CTFM. Thank you so much for that input over there. Let's just quickly go to the Accra Sports Stadium, where the National Democratic Congress is presently holding its conference. This is a conference that's going to elect the next batch of executives. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. But we have we have Obaya Amponsa Frimpong, who's chairperson of NPP USA, and we've just gotten hold of her. Let's quickly pick her mind on exactly what is going on at the Accra Sports Stadium. We also have one of our reporters over there, and we're going to be linking to her in a moment. But let's just see what Obaya has to say.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I've heard a lot about you. They say you are a big woman in the MPP USA branch. What does being the chairperson entail?
Yeah, thank you, my sister. Well, being the chairperson means that you get to create chapters around the 50 states of the United States. Currently, we have 27 chapters.
Okay.
In 20 states across the U.S. And we are still forming more chapters. We want to, in the next couple of years, be able to get to all the 50 states where Ghanaians live and Ghanaians who believe in MPP and MPP ideology all across.
How many?
That's what, and then also mobilizing them for both human, financial, technological resources for the party here in Ghana.
How many people from the USA are attending this delegates conference?
Can you repeat the question?
How many persons from the USA are attending the conference?
Yeah, currently we have 40 people from the USA alone here at the conference.
Is any of them standing for specific positions?
Yes, so far we have 3 of our members, both past and present, who are contesting in the race.
Right. Should I assume that you are supporting them against their opponents?
Well, MPP USA, by way of convention and principle, do not anybody during internal elections. What we do is that we conduct our own internal poll. Okay. And then from the outcome of the poll that we conduct, what the generality of members say they support is what we go for.
This particular delegates conference, how crucial is it and its outcomes to your chances in 2024?
Yeah, as they say, leadership matters, and we believe that the crop of leadership that we are going to elect in this election will be a defining moment for us to reorganize ourselves to be battle ready for 2024. So for us, it is very, very important what kind of vision this new crop of leadership wants to bring on board. What programs are they going to outline? How are they going to ensure that our base is energized and motivated? Currently, I mean, having been on ground for a couple of days now, there's quite apathy within our rank and file. So we need leadership who come and then begin to resolve the issues of apathy, bring the party together. So we need leadership who are team players, who believe in the unity of the party, who will not be there to create division. That would be difficult for us to come together to fight our battle in 2024. So those are the type of crop of leaders we are looking for in this particular elections.
Right. There are many complaints about the NPP presently. Some think that there are too many economic hardships and the chances for 2024 are slim. Do you think it's possible that the executives elected at this particular conference will be able to break the 8, as has been said?
It is possible. I mean, in political discourse, in political dynamics all across the world, it is possible. When you set your mind up to do something or to achieve something and you work at it, you will get there. I believe the economic hardship going on in Ghana is not peculiar only to Ghana. I live in the United States of America. I know how things are going economically. The good thing for us is that we live in an advanced country that has a lot of social safety net to help those who are vulnerable, to help those who are jobless and all that, which is different from Ghana as a developing country. And so here people will tend to feel the hardship more. But when you look at the rate of increase in salaries vis-a-vis the inflation that we are seeing in the US, it has never happened in my years, 21 years living in the United States. I've never seen this before. The prices of petrol are way high. I spend about $120, $140 every 3 days buying petrol or buying gas, as we call it. And I've never bought petrol at $5 and some cents ever since my 21 years living in the United States. This is the first time in the history of my living in the US that I've seen gases go all the way to $5 an hour. And in some states, it's even more. We go to the state of California. The prices there, you are within $6, $7 a gallon, which has never happened. I'm hearing about in 40 years that they've seen such. So it tells you the kind of economic struggle that the world finds itself in, with COVID coming in, the whole world shutting down and all that. So no government at this point in time, is having it easy with its citizens because, of course, people need to eat, people need to survive. And so in as much as they know the reality of what COVID has brought to the world, they also need to survive. And so there will be some agitation here and there. But we will continue to plead with them to have the patience, and with time, things will normalize. Because what we don't want to see is that the country going into recession. One of the things that the American government is trying to fight against is a recession. We've gone through recession before, and they don't want to go back to the same recessionary period. But as it stands now, inflation is skyrocketing every single day.
Right.
Every single day.
Based on the same premise of economic hardships, some people are pushing against the display of cash at conferences, which seem to have become normalized in Ghana. Every time there's a political conference held, there's an almost obscene display of cash. Is this something that the MPP is trying to contain in this particular conference?
Yeah, thank you, my sister. Open display of opulence, money, is something that as a branch of MPP, we abhor. We have been to every conferences buying our own plane tickets, and this time of the year, it's time where plane fares are very high because we are in a peak season for the airlines. And so plane tickets are very high. People bought flights as high as $3,000, $3,500, $2,800, and so on and so forth. And we pay those monies out of our own pocket because we are committed to the cause of the MPP. We are committed to the ideology of the party. And we believe that if there's any party that can turn the fortunes of Ghana around, it is the NPP.
Well, that was Obaya, chairperson of NPP USA, talking to us about her expectations at this particular conference. Let's just link to Faustina, who's on the ground, and find out exactly what is going on with the candidates on the ground. Faustina, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. No one can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. What is going on the ground where you are right now? What is the crowd like? Is there any security to control the crowd?
Right. So I'm here at the Accra Sports Stadium, where over 6,000 delegates are expected to converge, for the National Delegates Conference and for the international internal elections. So coming in, you can see party supporters rallying behind, the NPP, showing true support. I mean, security is tight. They'll ask you questions before you come in, and I can say that they are doing well security-wise.
Right. Have you seen any of the contestants where you are?
Oh no! Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Faustina. Just proceed.
Please, the question again.
Have you seen any of the contestants for the various positions?
So coming here, I made inquiries and I was told the national delegates are not around and the party executives are yet to arrive. So they'll be arriving later in the day, and I'm sure they are ready to, support their party and take part in the election. I mean, everyone is positive.
Do they have specific supporters? Have you spoken to any of these people? Because we know that there are some positions that are being keenly contested. For example, the National Youth Organizer position. We also know that the party's chairmanship position is another huge contest. Have you spoken to any of the people there?
Right. So coming in, I could see people clothed in their red and blue, showing support for like I said, for the National Patriotic Party. They are truly interested in what is going to be happening here today and tomorrow. Unfortunately, I couldn't speak to the youth organizer or other executives, but one thing I do know is they are all here showing support and they are very positive about what will take place here tomorrow.
Do they really believe that the party can break the 8 in 2024?
Right, I mean, everyone is very positive about that. They are optimistic about breaking the 8.
Yeah, Faustina, have you seen any notable party members of the NPP on the grounds?
Yes, I saw a few of them, but they were in a hurry. They were trying to, get things together. Everything is, colored in red and blue.
Right.
And yeah, but they were unable to speak.
Right. Thank you so much, Faustina. Faustina Mafu is our correspondent, and she is on ground at the Accra Sports Stadium following the NPP's delegates conference. She's going to be bringing us updates, especially on the evening's news. That's in some 40 minutes at 6:30 p.m. right here on MX24 television. But let me go to the line. I believe I still have Hansen on the line and Felicity. Hello, Felicity. Are you still there? Hello, Felicity. Can you hear me? I don't think I'm getting your line clearly. There's quite some feed there that's hard for me to pick up. But let me go to Hansen Ajiman. Hansen, are you there?
Yes.
Hansen, looking at this delegates conference. Are there any similarities between previous ones? We see on the grounds it's not too crowded right now, but I'm sure going into tonight and tomorrow there will be more people on the grounds. What have you noticed about this particular conference?
Well, for starters, the NPP has worked on changing the face of the internal elections. So, in previous elections, if you have gone to the conference grounds, you would have seen a lot of posters of the uh, party persons vying for various positions. But because of a directive from the elections committee for the aspirants or the candidates not to do an opulent campaign and not to have their branded souvenirs around a lot. Most of these candidates have shown from that. So you see more of party colors. You don't see a lot of the posters of aspirants around the conference grounds, and that's understandable because they want to adhere to the directives given by the elections committee. Aside that, in terms of style, there's really nothing different because even though usually it's a 3-day affair, there's one day for arrival, and then there's a conference itself for the election. So what we are seeing today are the arrivals. And most of these delegates arrive in Accra, and they are taken straight to their hotels because the NPP is funding all the entire cost of delegates coming to Accra, transportation, accommodation, food. So we'll see more of delegates on Saturday when conference will begin. From what we've been told by the executives or the elections committee, speeches will be given by the president. We will hear from the outgoing chairman, Freddie Blair. We will hear from the treasurer and most likely from the general secretary. And if there's enough time, they may give a minute or two to all aspirants to speak to delegates and to reassure them why they should be voted for.
It's interesting that you mentioned that the outgoing chairman, because we know that for that particular role, there are some 3 front runners. That's Stephen Ayensun Tim, who has contested some 5 times. There's also Stephen Asamoah Boateng, and then there's George Kwabena Abankwah Yeboah. Are you familiar with any of them?
Well, it's an interesting race, and because Freddie Blair is not contesting any longer, you have about 7 people. Initially used to be 8, IPO 2 has withdrawn from the race. So 7. Now these 3 people is going to be a keen contest, and because for somebody like Abankwah Yeboah, he's the incumbent national treasurer of the NPP. And if you look at the elections that the NPP have gone through so far, 2016, 2020, there's been an election where they've been able to mobilize resources to coordinate their campaign activities. And he's somebody that a lot of people are crediting for what the party has been able to do. So he's one person that on that level, and a number of people think that if you want to lead a major political party, you should either have funds or 2 be able to mobilize funds. So if he's been able to do it at the treasurer position, they're thinking by a number of people really, then you can only imagine what he can do. Now then there's Stephen Asamoah Boateng Asabi, former Director General of SEGA.
Hansen, please sum up for us in 1 minute if you can.
Yeah, so it's really going to be an interesting one, Asamoah Boateng, and for me, and I think that it's going to be between Asamoah Boateng and Stephen in team, and we hope to see what will happen tomorrow at the conference ground.
Stephen Asamoah Boateng and Stephen in team, who is going to emerge chairman of the NPP. Will be following up tomorrow and bringing you updates. Thank you so much, Hansen Ajiman, who is a broadcast journalist at City TV and City FM. We also spoke with Julius Sachi, who's a journalist at The Finder. Wanda Amihagan is a multimedia journalist at Ghana Web, and Felicity Nelson is a broadcast journalist at Class 91.3 FM. We thank you to you at home for staying with us for 1 hour of your evening. We're grateful for your time. Have a fantastic weekend and join us same time on Monday at 5 p.m. Good evening.
Pay your taxes and let's free God.
I'm a nurse.
I am a farmer.
I'm a spare parts dealer.
From other nations.
Charlie, things hard, I know, but no matter how difficult things get, we always try to do the important things.